Well, it's good to see everybody, and it's also good to actually start speaking to everybody before you've eaten lunch and you aren't into that lull after lunch. But I want to again welcome everybody to the forum. This is a very, very important time for us to get together. If we look out at what's happening with our two countries, what's happening more on a global basis, and we look out at the challenges that we know are coming and indeed are here, both water, energy, and all of the other issues that our two countries share, it is forums like this that become very important for us to share ideas, for us to talk about technology transfer, for us to talk about best practices, for us to even admit the mistakes we've made and help our neighbors not repeat those mistakes. But more than anything, it's to foster the relationships that are so important in having good neighbors. I have an accent, but I am a Texan. I married a Texan, and I have two Texan sons. So while I grew up in Africa and love Africa dearly, as they tell me always to say, I got to Texas as fast as I could. And in many respects, I did. But when growing up in Africa, and growing up as I did in Zimbabwe and Swaziland, and looking at what has happened to that continent and countries with corruption, lack of policy, lack of defined plans, the impact of climate change, the impact of corruption, political despots, and you look at all of that and you say, how does that impact the rest of the world? And it really does. And there are lessons to be learned there, and our two countries deserve better. We all face many of the same challenges, but it's what happens if you don't have good policies, if you don't have good legislation, and if you don't have good leaders. So on that, it is my pleasure to introduce Commissioner Bush. Commissioner Bush took office in January of this year. He won in a landslide victory, and in that vote count, he had 49% of the Hispanic vote. And that is important when we look at Texas, when we look at Mexico. Indeed, it makes him uniquely qualified to be here, to host this, and to be a leader in addressing some of the many issues that face our nation. We know when we saw him when he was 12, and I was much younger, but damn, not that young, speaking at his grandfather's nomination, that he was going to be a force to be reckoned with. And indeed, he is proving that in his own quiet, deliberate, and I do use these words, intellectually honest way. He is not a politician as we think about politicians today. He comes from the private sector. He has been an asset manager. He has been in real estate. He's been a teacher. He's been to Afghanistan in the military. He comes with all of these qualifications to the table at a time that we need somebody who is different, somebody who thinks differently, and indeed, Commissioner Bush is proving very quickly that we were right to elect him into office. So with that, let's welcome Commissioner Bush.
Thank you, Amanda, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, for joining us at the 22nd Annual Border Energy Forum. As you see the flags behind me, it's a constant reminder of the enormous partnership that the United States of America and Mexico has. I also want to recognize Canada, as well as the Canadian ambassador to the United States was able to participate this morning in an incredible perspective on American relationships with Canada. And it's one thing that we're looking at in terms of the future of the Border Energy Forum as we look at transforming the idea of creating a North American OPEC that would determine the future of energy independence in our hemisphere. Bienvenidos a todos que han venido desde México. Es un placer y un honor a reunir con todos de ustedes. And we very much look forward to joining you in Mexico next year. We're open to your suggestions for where it should be in your great country. Many have already voted for Mexico City, so the vote is still out. I appreciate that kind of reception. It's great to be back in the great city of San Diego. It's a constant reminder of my military service in the U.S. Navy. As you know, San Diego is a great military town, and I had a chance to be stationed here for a few weeks. Not a bad place to be stationed, much better than Kabul, Afghanistan, but certainly a place where many military veterans and their families have a chance to celebrate and enjoy R&R before serving. Before we get started, I want to take a second to thank everyone who has made this forum possible this year. I want to thank our great panelists and moderators who continue to make the Border Energy Forum what it is, with a focused mission to make sure that we are helping close transactions and close deals for entrepreneurs, for diversified companies that are examining the opportunities in our hemisphere. I also wanted to thank some of our Texas state leadership, Representatives Johnson, Blanco, and Isaac, who are joining us from the great state of Texas, and also Senators Hancock and Creighton, who are also joining us. Thank you very much for being here. I want to thank our corporate sponsors, Solar City, Hunt Oil, Greenberg Traurig, Cheniere Energy, Rodriguez Davalos, Holland & Knight, Sempra Energy, Texas Oil and Gas Association, Gardier, Enel Green Power, Occidental Petroleum, and Howard Energy. Finally, I want to thank Cleantech San Diego, the U.S.-Mexico Cultural and Educational Foundation, and Beck North American Development Bank for partnering with the General Land Office as members of the organizing committee. Now, some of you may not exactly know what we do at the Texas General Land Office. Don't be ashamed if you don't, because not a lot of Texans do. But that is my job, to inform not only folks in Texas, but throughout the country about the important work that we do for the people of Texas. The quiet professionals that work every day serve military veterans, serve public high school teachers, serve the oil and gas industry and the energy industry in total, and serve our education system. It's an important role, and it's a role that we take very seriously, because at the Land Office, we oversee more than 13 million acres of the state mineral rights, including commercial real estate assets. It's the largest state-managed portfolio of assets that you will find in North America. And it's constitutionally protected source of revenue that provides the largest source of revenue to our permanent school fund, and one of the largest overall to our K-12 system. Since its inception, our agency has generated more than $16.8 billion for this $38 billion education endowment. It's the largest education-focused endowment you'll find, now overtaking the size of the Harvard University endowment. More than $8 billion of those contributions came in the last decade in the wake of the fracking revolution that has taken place, largely in Texas. And so managing these leases is one of our core functions. Last year, in the midst of a large oil boom, we generated over $1 billion in less than 1 year for the very first time. So along with sustaining the permanent school fund, these 13 million acres also allow Texans to save money on their power. We manage a program called the State Energy Marketing Program, where we have a right of first refusal to, instead of selling natural gas or oil at the wellhead, sell it to power distributors throughout our state. And as an in-kind contribution, we can compete against the private sector to make sure that public municipalities, school districts can save on the second largest line item traditionally in our public school system in Texas, and that's power. In 2014, last year alone, our state power program engaged in over 375 public retail power customers. And overall, we were able to help education save $14 million in 1 year alone through these energy-saving programs. So really, it's a win-win program, not only for our agency. It allows us to reinvest those dollars with third-party managers to grow the size of the $38 billion endowment, but also allow school districts to save money on their power bills. One of the other actions we took action on this year was revising our state farm lease. The federal government in the United States of America usually gets about a 15% royalty rate on their minerals. We decided during this correction to raise our royalty rate to 25%. We've also included condensates and and brackish water and any economic value that we could get out of the wellhead during this correction. And I think our projections will show that we will generate nearly as much as we did when oil was over $100 a barrel, West Texas Intermediate, last year. We also took our lease sales online for the very first time. Since World War II, we would invite producers in the state of Texas to the Stephen F. Austin, and producers would literally drop a form, a submission form, into a wooden box where we would tabulate the different bids on state minerals. And it was a tried and true practice since World War II, and we would obtain roughly $350 an acre. And so I wanted to bring a perspective where we live in a world that, we buy products on Amazon, we sell on eBay, and we get a ride on Uber, but government should do the same thing. So we partnered with EnergyNet.com, and we obtained over $1,500 per acre on the state's minerals and netted over $20 million in 20 minutes with the first online lease sale auction in the agency's history. So by putting this process online, we brought in over 2,000 bidders, private producers, to our lease sales, as opposed to the average of about 200 in the traditional way that we would try to lease the state's minerals. And even in a soft oil and gas market, we made more money per pound by opening this bidding process to the 21st century. Texans demand from all of us a more efficient and more effective way to do business at the government level, and that's what we're trying to do at the General Land Office. So as you can see, we're busy getting the work done for the good people of Texas. We have several members of our team here today. Take some time to get to know our processes. We have an open door policy. We want to be transparent in terms of how we do business. We look forward to working with each and every one of you to make sure that we're protecting the good school children of our state, but also examining business opportunities for our wonderful region. Thank you very much for supporting our conference. May God bless each and every one of you. May God bless the United States of America.